Good evening. I hope everyone is faring well during this, it's kind of cool today, but during these past few days, this hot weather, we hoping that the weather be kind of pleasant for our first day at school tomorrow. But we want to call the Griffin-Spalding County Board of Education meeting for 8/4/2021 to order, and we ask that you either silence, place your electronic devices on silence, or turn them off so as not to disturb the meeting. At this time, we want to have the Griffin-Spalding County School Spotlight by our board representative, Mr. Cynthia Brown.
Thank you so much, Mr. Leader, for the ability to present this spotlight tonight. Our school for spotlight tonight is Cowan Road Elementary. Let's give them a hand. How many scholars attend your school? 515 scholars. What is your school mascot? The Cowan Colts. How many faculty and staff members work at your school? We have a total of 68 staff members, including our instructional, nutrition, clerical, and custodial staff members. A quote from the principal on why you love being the proud principal of Cowan Road Elementary School. I love being the principal of Cowan Road Elementary because we have a staff dedicated to building a love of learning and perseverance in our students. We are striving to give our staff the tools they need to equip our scholars to succeed through effective professional learning. In turn, we want our staff to give our scholars the tools they need to be successful, productive, and motivated even when they face roadblocks. We want our scholars to be creative, able to collaborate, and to be critical thinkers and communicate effectively, as these skills will serve them well in the 21st century. Our theme this year continues with Colts Can. We will continue to help our scholars see their potential and to see that their future is limitless when they work hard and focus on what they can do. Remember, Colts Can. What good things are going on at the school socially and educationally? First, we are so pleased to be welcoming almost all of our scholars back into our building this school year. Let's give them a hand. We had an amazing turnout of families at our open house event. We're excited about the grand reopening of the CRE Media Center with a huge reading incentive kickoff to encourage our scholars to read. Scholars will have individual class and grade level goals to work toward. Remember, Colts can read. We are proud to announce that our partnership with Mercer University will continue as we host another intern teacher this year. We are also happy to be continuing our STEM partnership with Mercer University. We're continuing to prepare our STEM recertification. We are excited for our scholars to return to campus to see how much their chickens have grown, try out our new STEM carts, and begin working on some school-wide STEM projects that support the STEM theme. Colts can create and care for our Cowan community. What are you doing to show that all of the good things that you're doing? Our special teams will be working with our grade level teachers to focus on cultural groups each month. Our music and PE teachers will focus on reteaching students songs, dances, and games that are connected to cultural group we are studying. Our science lab and Colts collab teachers will focus on teaching students traditions, crafts, and any natures linked to cultural groups. Items created by students will be displayed in the lobby and our media center. One of our goals in each classroom is to build libraries that feature books that expose students to cultures, different languages, and many types of careers and different interests. Part of our grand reopening of our media center includes a feature section that will change monthly to highlight various groups of people. A focus for our staff this year is building relationships with our families and building with each other. We have many team building activities scheduled for our staff this year. We are also looking forward to the possibility of continuing some of our Cowan traditions that would help build relationships in families, such as the annual Cowan Road Elementary Fall Festival and the Father-Daughter Dance. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, let's give it up for Cowan Road Elementary as our spotlight school. If the faculty and staff and scholars of Cowan Road would join my colleagues and I for a picture. Mr. Chair, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. And congratulations again to Cowan Road, the Colts. At this time, I'm going to ask my board mate, Ms. Barbara Jo Cook, to do our prayer. And then we will have Jasmine Talley-Orr of Cowan Road Elementary to come and lead us in our pledge. Let us all stand.
Blessings that we have is the blessing of providing a quality education for the children in the Griffin system. We're thankful for our superintendent, our administration, our staff, our faculty, and most of all for the students who attend our schools. We ask your special blessing the school year this year. It's been a challenging year last year, and we're very hopeful that this year is going to be an exciting year for all of our students. We are so grateful to be back. Now, as we go into our business meeting, let the words of our mouths and the meditation of our hearts be acceptable unto you, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. In the Master's name and for his sake we pray. Amen.
Amen. Ms. Jasmine, come forward. You can stand right. There you go.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen. Thank you, Ms. Jasmine. Next, we'll divert back to Mr. Brown for our Griffin-Spalding County School System announcements.
So, thank you so much, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity to present again. We have started our Scholar Clerk program, where we have scholars who are interested in coming and doing our announcements during this time. And so I would like to read off the names for those who are part of our Scholar Clerk program. Ms. J.C. Barnes, Ms. Niteria Davis, Mr. Ethan Bearden, Ms. Kaylee Collins, and Ms. Alexis McGill. So today we only have two announcements, Mr. Chair. One is tomorrow is the first day of school. Tomorrow is the first day of school. Are we excited about that?
Yeah.
We are definitely excited, and we are glad to kick off our Day One initiative in the district, where we will have members of the community, sororities, different clubs and organizations welcoming and greeting our scholars and our faculty members to campus. So we're definitely excited about that. And the last announcement is, Mr. Chair, on Tuesday, August 17th, the Board of Education will have a work session here in the Learning Center at 4 p.m. No more announcements.
Thank you, sir. Next, we want to adopt the agenda as presented. Could we get a motion to adopt the agenda? We got a motion. Can we get a second? Got a second by Mr. Dawes. All in favor, show by raising your right hand. 5-0. Thank you so much. Next, we have public comments, and I have a list of names that will be coming forth. And if you don't mind, I'd like to read our board policy guidelines. Any individual desiring to speak is requested to give his or her name, address, and the group, if any, that he or she is representing. The speaker should speak to the board, not the audience. The presentation should be brief as possible, yet should include all information considered important by the speaker. Unless an extension of time is granted, each speaker shall not exceed 5 minutes. If one spokesperson has presented a matter that it is not necessary for others to repeat the same ideas, others speaking on the same subject shall usually be limited to 1 minute each. Questions, suggestions, proposals, or criticisms which have been presented verbally should also be submitted when practical in writing and should be signed by the individual or the spokesperson of the group appearing before the board. Persons appearing before the board are reminded as a point of information that members of the board are without authority to act independently as individuals in official matters. With that being said, our first speaker for this afternoon will be Shannon Martin. If you would come forth and state your name and address, and we'll hear from you at this time. What do you mean? What do you mean you're going to pass? You don't want to speak? Okay, all right. Thank you so much for letting me know. Okay, next we have Chastity Nichols. Please come forth at this time. Yes, just come to the podium. Make sure that mic is on. Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Thank you. Hello. Good evening. My
Good
name is
evening.
Chastity Nichols, and I reside at 102 St. Luke Drive. I have 4 children, and 3 of whom which are enrolled in the school district here in Spalding County.
Can't hear you.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Chastity Nichols, and I reside at 102 St. Luke Drive. I have 4 children, 3 of whom which are enrolled in the school district here in Spalding County. They are 15, 13, and 5. They are attending their first year of high school, 7th grade, and middle school, and their first year of kindergarten. So as you can see, I have 3 children attending school in this district, in 3 different schools. I am here today to address the mask issue at hand. My youngest daughter will be attending her first year in kindergarten this year. Her teacher did call me the morning of open house to apologize to me for not being able to make it due to the fact that she was sick with COVID-19. She was on the verge of tears during our conversation and confided in me during that conversation that she was really worried she wasn't going to be able to meet her students. That in itself is very sad and is a major concern to me. So after attending open house, I was not very much impressed by the precautions the school staff was supposedly taking to protect our children. Not only were the parents and students and other staff members not wearing a mask, but many of the teachers were not as well, and at the very least, these teachers and staff members should be mandated to do so, despite whether or not they have the vaccine, given the new Delta variant. If I wasn't concerned or worried before, I certainly am now. If we go to the CDC website, we can see where the guidelines are, and they are as follows, The CDC guidelines are that every person, especially those unvaccinated, should be wearing a mask while indoors. Unfortunately, the Spalding County School Board has decided to only make masks optional. This is concerning for me as a parent. From my understanding, the mask optional was announced after virtual has been closed and capacity has been met. I was fully prepared to allow 3 of my school-age children to attend school this year under the impression that the mask would still be mandated. If I was made aware of the situation about the mask being optional instead of mandated beforehand, I would have signed my children up for virtual learning before that option was no longer there. This has me in a predicament. Like I said, I do have 4 children. My youngest is 3. He will be 4 in September, and he has a very long history of medically complex needs. Those needs include tracheobronchomalacia, which is an airway disorder, and a laryngeal cleft, which causes him to aspirate, and when he gets sick, he even with a common cold or RSV, he could end up in ICU. We have been doing everything ever since the COVID pandemic started to prevent ourselves and everyone in our household from getting sick. My husband and I are fully vaccinated, and my 2 oldest children are next in line. Even vaccinated, we wear a mask where we go, if we go anywhere. All 4 of my children, even the one with airway disorders, wears his mask with no issues. My youngest son has been through so much, and COVID would likely kill him. He has been feeding tube reliant due to his issues almost since birth. He just had his airway surgery on the 21st of July. I have to make my children go to school, otherwise there are consequences for unexcused absences in the state of Georgia under Georgia law. So now I am again in the predicament that I do not want to be in. Either my children go to school, or I suffer the consequences at hand, or my children get sick, along with my youngest, who, like I said, has airway issues, and this could possibly kill him. My request as a parent for the school-age children is to please reconsider the mask optional, and please, for the safety of our children, mine included, yours included, and for everyone around us in Spalding County, to make masks mandated for our students. We are giving you our children's lives and putting our children's lives in your hands while they are learning in your facilities. And I really feel like you can do so much more and follow the CDC guidelines better. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. Next, we have Christine Thomas.
Nice to see you guys again. How are you?
Doing great.
My name is Christine Thomas. I live at 400 North River Road in Williamson, Georgia.
Can't hear you.
My name is Christine Thomas. I live at 400 North River Road in Griffin, Georgia. Is that good?
Yes.
Okay. All right. In the early 1990s, Gloria Ladson Billings fought for an education form of critical race theory in education. She is the creator of CRT in education. She knew there needed to be a vehicle to implement the theory, so she created culturally relevant pedagogy as the vehicle to insert CRT into education. The two are synonymous. Cultural relevant pedagogy, if it is present in any forms, is representative of critical race theory. Other names used under the cultural relevant pedagogy umbrella is cultural responsive teaching, cultural competent curriculum, culturally sensitive schools, diversity, equity, inclusion, cultural relevant organizations, foundations and equity, anti-racist education, and anti-racist schools. All adhere to the tenets of critical race theory, specifically the tenet number 1, where America and its foundations and systems are founded in racism, white supremacy, and white privilege. In the past year, GSCS has hired diversity, equity, inclusion consultants as well as anti-racist consultants multiple times to provide administration and staff with foundations of culturally relevant pedagogy and diversity, equity, inclusion training. In November 2020, GSCS held a seminar titled, "Are You a Conscious Leader?" Our discussion of race, bias, and cultural responsiveness by Burden and Hester. The same consultants were brought in June 2020 for diversity consciousness. In February 2021, GSCS hired Craig Howell as a consultant for seminar Cultural Responsive Teaching and Collective Efficacy within pre-K classrooms. Dr. Norm tweets, educators in professional learning, pre-K educators in professional learning session and cultural responsive teaching and collective efficacy within pre-K are attending this seminar. On May 28, 2021, Dr. Morgan, diversity, equity, inclusion consultant, was also called in. Many of her, her workshop says, culture responsive organization, privilege, anti-racist, microaggressions, unpack the history of power, prejudice, and privilege, oppression of Black, Indigenous people, cultural competency, cultural responsive organizations. The critical theory tenets are intermingled throughout this whole thing. She also uses, I'm not going to go over that one, remember cultural relevant pedagogy. Cultural relevant pedagogy is three-tiered in its approach, says the founder, Ladson Billings. Academic success, using critical race theory tenets to create a more equitable environment. Cultural competence, making cultural the focus rather than meritocracy or skill set, and then socio-political consciousness, make our children activists for the collective rather than individual. Now, the board says that the Board of Education and Keith Simmons are adamant that GCS is not teaching critical race theory, but they are teaching and they have implemented, and with professional learning units, cultural relevant pedagogy and cultural responsive teaching. So, being that CRT, the theory, is actually used as in the vehicle of CRT is the cultural relevant pedagogy and cultural relevant, responsive teaching. Tell me then how CRT is not being used, since they are synonymous and you can't have one without the other. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Thomas. Next, we have Dr. Yashonda Jones.
I'm going to take this off then. Dr. Yashonda Jones, 104 St. Luke Drive. I'm here again to speak about the fake CRT panic. A wise person once told me that you cannot help someone who chooses to be ignorant, but we can entertain them. So at the last meeting, I remember that there was a lot of quotes that were given from Dr. King. And sometimes we like to pick and choose what his legacy is, but I just wanted to leave you with one of his quotes that is rarely chosen in his Where Do We Go From Here from 1967. And it says, "Whites, it must frankly be said, are not putting in a similar mass effort to re-educate themselves out of their racial ignorance. It is an aspect of their sense of superiority that the white people of America believe they have so little to learn. The reality of substantial investment to assist the black community into the 20th century, adjusting to black people in neighborhoods and genuine school integration, is still a nightmare for all too many white Americans. These are the deepest causes for contemporary abrasions between the races. Loose and easy language about equality, resonant resolutions about brotherhood fall pleasantly on the ear. But for the black people, there is a credibility gap we cannot overlook. We remember that with each modest advance, the white population promptly raises the argument that the black community has come far enough. Each step forward accents an ever-present tendency to backlash." And that is all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Last, we have Patricia Wilson. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. No problem.
Okay. What happened? That it now? Yeah, there it is. Okay. And I was here last time for the same thing about the CRT, but I wanted to bring something else up that I didn't say last time. You all keep telling us that you aren't teaching this. You even told me to look at the curriculum. It's not in the curriculum. I agree with you, it's not. But you're still sneaking it in the back door. There was two ladies here last time, and they were speaking about the loss of learning from COVID. So they're saying that the federal government is giving you all money to go to different schools, take care of the needs there in those schools. But at the end of the thing that she talked about, there was said 20% would be for equity. So the federal government is giving y'all money to teach this. You have books to teach it. You have, well, if you don't understand, I'll explain it to you afterwards, because I'm sure nobody don't want me to go through the whole thing. But I'm a little nervous. I'm not used to speaking in public, so y'all forgive me for that. But anyway, all right. I keep hearing blacks tell us that we keep telling them how to feel. We don't know how they feel, so why do we keep telling them that? Well, when you do CRT and you telling whites that we should feel bad about ourselves because blacks have not had it as good as we have, y'all are not asking us how we feel or telling us. Y'all are forcing us to feel this way. So to me, I don't think that's right either. That's pretty racist to me. When you choose one color or culture over another one, that's racist. And for some reason, blacks seem to think that all whites are racist and that we've always had it better than you all. That's just a bald-faced lie. We have not. My whole family has worked hard for everything we have. Nothing's been given to us. No handouts, no nothing. And have I been treated badly because of my color? Yeah, at times. But that don't mean I hate all blacks just because that happened. So blacks should not hate all whites because sometimes they get treated differently for their color. And when you're bringing this CRT in here in this school, any place, it's all over the country, so I know it's in the school, it's everywhere. It's in the workplace, it's in the armed forces, it's everywhere. So you're telling white children that they should feel bad about themselves because they're white. Well, they don't, just like you can't help how you were born, they can't either. You can't tell a child they should feel bad about that. I don't care what color or culture they're from. Then nobody should feel bad about themselves no matter what color or culture they are. And I need to respond to something that I said last time. There was a lady here that misunderstood what I said, so I want to correct that. I said that if y'all keep letting the federal government dictate what y'all do, and y'all just roll over and let them keep doing it, they're going to keep pushing stuff. They won't stop here. They're going to keep pushing more. And the next thing it's going to be is little boys are going to come in and they're going to want to go in the girls' bathroom. I said that, not saying anything against any person. There was a binary girl here at the time and she got offended. Wasn't speaking of her. I was saying that if a little boy comes in one day and he thinks he's going to go in the girls' bathroom because he says he's a girl, you think he's not going to do that? So if y'all keep allowing the federal government to dictate everything y'all do, this is what it's going to come to. This is not going to stop here. It's just going to keep going and going and going and going. So I beg you, please don't allow this in our schools because most of us do not want it. Thank you for listening.
And we have one last person, and we ask that when you come forward to give your name, address, but Mr. Donald Driver.
I live at 534 Moore Street right here in the city of Griffin, Georgia. I come before you this evening because...
Talk a little bit into the mic, Mr. Driver.
I come before you this evening because of the fact that is that the critical race theory or whatever you want to call it, is in front of our face. I can tell you about critical race theory and about critical race stuff. I come out of Annie Shockley Elementary School. I went to school there 6 years. 6 straight years. We were taught that white people were better than we were. But we had a principal by the name of Reverend Sopsher told us that we were humans as well. We were dictated to that we didn't have a white card. The world has come to the point now that everything that comes up get pushed out and they're against. I was talked about in the history books. I was talked about on the streets. Everywhere we went, we were called names and everything. That's race and stuff. This little minute stuff that we're talking about there now, this has nothing to do with our kids because white kids are marrying black boys, white girls are marrying black boys are marrying white girls. The world is intermingling. What are you going to tell your kids? They're going to ask. Don't tell them they're mixed. Who are you? Where did you come from? Why is all of this brought up? It's in the classroom. If it's part of the curriculum, teach it. If it offends, I was offended years ago. Do you think I'm over that? but I live with what goes on. I don't come to try to say, this is not right, that's not right, this is not right, that's not right. I go with the status quo. If they vote 3-2, I live with that. I might differ from them, but I can go along with her. Dr. Jones. Dr. Jones researched stuff in a manner that no other person that I've seen in the city of Griffin does. She just don't come forth with something, and I agree with her 100%, and I stand behind her 100%. Because of the fact that you want to see the scars on the inside of my heart? You want to see the scars on my mama when she was told she can't go no further than the 7th grade? That's all she need to know? Let's tell these children about what though. Tell them the African people were kings and queens before they were brought to this land. They know it. Let's tell them the truth. Let's tell everybody the truth. Let's put it all on the table. If it offend you, then shake the dust off your feet like we do and then move on. But this don't make no sense how America is getting now. One person can put out one little sentence and the whole country goes for it. This ain't right. This came from here. This came from there. This came from here. What are we doing? What are we doing? If they vote for it, we ain't got nothing to do with it. We got a comment that we can talk about, but that's it. You can call your representative and tell him that you don't like it, but he still got to vote his conscience. And that's what God wants us to do. Thomas Jefferson said something years ago, and I bid you all to go look at what the founding fathers wrote in their memoirs about these times right here now. I feel, Thomas Jefferson said, that one day that the Africans, because we have taken their fez and their turbans, gonna rise up and understand what's going on. Well, it's going on. What are we gonna do about it? Are we gonna work together? Joseph saw a coat of many colors. What do we want? Just black and white like we see on the classroom floors and things like that? When people bring things to you that's important, weigh it. Look at it. I have scars that goes all the way back to 1962 when I first started school. I'm 65 years old, and if you're older than me in here, you should know how you was taught then, because I was taught totally different. But now I can be taught everything. I can be taught about you, him, her, everybody. We all in the pot together. This is one place. Am I finished, sir?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Driver, for being obedient. And I think, and I want to say this on behalf of the board. We've all kind of discussed it. I talked to Mr. Simmons today. We are not hesitant to have our citizens come and speak for us. This is your school system. We welcome people to come, and I say this as I said before, I wish the board meeting was this full every meeting, because it's about our babies, it's about our kids. I wish people would be this concerned all year long. Let us see you. Let us hear from you. Don't wait till it's a controversial issue. And so with that being said, I thank everybody that came to speak, because I was told by my granddad years and years ago, the truth can stand all by itself. So thank you, and at this time, we'll take a 5-minute break. And you can put that timer back up there, Adam. I like that, man.
Yeah, that's cool.
Put that timer back up there, and we'll take a 5-minute break, and we can watch that timer, and we can get back to our respected places. Thank you, And hallelujah, we'll be having our first day of school tomorrow. All right, let's go. Let's go. Okay. Miss Cook. Sit down, Miss Rose. Did anybody kidnap Miss Cook?
Anybody what?
Kidnap Miss Cook.
Sorry, I didn't know.
We'll go ahead and Miss Cook will matriculate on back with us, but we're going to accept our consent agenda items. Can I get a motion to accept them?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Got a motion, can I get a second? Second. Got a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your hand. Oh, that Ms. Cook is. We voted on the consent agenda, Ms. Cook. You in the affirmative?
Raise your hand.
All right, 5-0. All right.
Can't understand you.
So they can understand?
Just voted on the consent agenda items.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. We just voted on the consent agenda items, and we're moving into the action items right now. So with that said, Ms. Katie, would you come forth to give us your presentation on the GSCS Charter Renewal?
Good evening, Mr. Holmes and board members, and thank you for letting me be here this evening. What I've brought to you tonight, the superintendent recommends that the Griffin-Spalding Board of Education provides approval of the resolution that should be in your packet for the Griffin Region College and Career Academy Charter Renewal Extension. And the superintendent and Mr. Holmes, the chair, we need your signatures on the resolution and then just Mr. Holmes' signature on the amendment. Kind of the background is you're all very familiar. The Career Academy, we went through our certification visit just 3 weeks before we closed down for the pandemic. And we did pass that certification visit with flying colors and actually had the highest scores for any that got certified, any college and career academies last year. Part of the certification of the college and career academies, that is the beginning of the charter renewal. Charter are for 5 years, and the charter here was up for renewal. As I mentioned, right after the certification, we closed for COVID and thought we were coming back in 2 weeks, but we did not. And during that time, we also got a new superintendent. So when it came time to sign off, say when we were ready to renew our charter, the Department of Education, Georgia Department of Education Charter Division recommended that we get either a 1-year or a 2-year extension to allow ample time for our new superintendent, Mr. Simmons, to go through the original charter and see if there needs to be any kind of changes, and also then bring that before you before we send in that renewal. So what this amendment would do, it would amend our original charter to mean that we had 12 additional months to turn in our renewal charter. The renewal documentation can be turned in anytime during that 12 months. I will have information ready for Mr. Simmons to begin looking over of that renewal charter next week or the week after. We'll get the first day of school under us, and then he will continue on the process from there. But that is what I'm asking tonight, is that the board would approve of this charter extension, 12-year extension, and then this will go on to go before the State Board of Education for their approval as well.
Okay, it looks like I have one with the signature on it. Is this the original?
Yeah, that's the one that, that's a copy of that one, but that's the one that our board chair signed that one in favor. Our board voted in favor to go for the 1-year extension.
1-year extension, okay.
Yes.
You know, the NAACP has given athletes and whatnot, you know, options of making money off of their likeness and signature. So you got a check for me?
Not today.
Not today. Okay, we will have the board to vote on the 1-year extension. Got to get a motion?
Motion.
So moved. Motion and a second. Who seconded that? Mr. Brown. All in favor? All right. Thank you. We'll get that signed and
Okay.
get it.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Next, we have Griffin-Spalding County School fundraiser request by Mr. Anthony Aiken. Is this for you personally or for the schools?
I may have snuck one or two in there for me. Thank you, Mr. Holmes, board, Mr. Simmons. Schools within the Griffin-Spalding County school system are seeking approval from the Griffin-Spalding County Board of Education for their proposed 2021-2022 fundraisers. As you know, each year before the beginning of school, we ask schools to submit to us a list of proposed fundraisers that they use to supplement the budget that is given by the system and the state for operational purposes. These funds are used for things outside of what is allowable within the budget from the state and from us. Sent to us, we compile them all together. They are looked at by myself. We look at them from the nutrition standpoint, from the smart snacks, do they meet that? Guidelines of do they meet our fundraising requirements with policies on collection of money, that sort of thing, and also is ethical. All of these that you see on the list have gone through that process and have been brought forward to you. And at this time, it is recommended that the Griffin-Spalding County Board of Education approve the 2021-2022 school fundraisers.
Board members, you've heard from Mr. Akins. Can we get a motion to approve the request fundraiser?
So move.
Got a motion? You can get a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Dawes. All in favor? 5-0. Thank you, Ms. Aiken. Presentations. We have Dr. Tiffany Taylor to present August Teacher and Leader Effectiveness Division update.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
And so I am here this afternoon just to give some updates for the month of August. I do look forward throughout the year bringing you various updates. And so as we scroll through here today, we will just continue to create those experiences that align with the results that we want to have. Next slide. That this presentation focuses on student performance. You will hear various updates.
Could we get a microphone that works, please?
All right, let's try that. Is that better?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Dr.
Okay, so
Saulson.
next slide. And so we know that we have transitioned and done some reorganization, and so this particular slide does a good job to highlight really what the goal of teacher and leader effectiveness is. And so here on this slide, you see that educators and researchers agree that teacher effectiveness is the single most important factor in student achievement. Basically what that means is we know that our teachers are on the front line. We congratulate them for the work that they've done last year during the pandemic, and we look forward to their work this year. And so a couple of things we believe. We believe that every child deserves to have an effective teacher every year. We believe that every teacher deserves to have a team of effective leaders throughout his or her career We have lots of administrators who are here with us tonight that champion this particular statement. Effectiveness can be developed. We know that the professional learning department sits within our division. We just concluded a professional learning day yesterday, as a matter of fact. And then finally, educator growth is best achieved through deliberate practice on specific knowledge and skills. There's been a lot of talk about curriculum, what we teach, what we do not teach, and what is the purpose of our curriculum. And so here illustrated on this slide, these are some best practices as it pertains to the curriculum. Does our school have a guaranteed and viable curriculum, also known as an acronym you may hear, GVC? We designed our curriculum based upon the rigorous curriculum design. What you'll see illustrated here on these 4 pencils with number 1, one question that we should ask is, does our school have an agreement and common understanding of the essential content all students must know and understand and be able to do? We know that we get that information from the Georgia Standards of Excellence. If you want to access our curriculum, you can simply go to georgiastandards.org. That is the start. Our rigorous curriculum design is based upon those GSC. Number 2, our performance criteria established and communicated to all stakeholders. This is an area that we will continue to work on throughout this school year. Pencil number 3, does our school or school district have a process for monitoring the implementation of our curriculum? You will hear us talk about our MAP testing, our Orton-Gillingham screeners, and various tools that we use to gauge whether or not our guaranteed and viable curriculum, or RCD is the design of that curriculum within our school system, to see if we are meeting those measurements incrementally as we work towards the CCRPI that we'll get at the end of the year. Many of those measures are measured by the Georgia Milestones Assessment. And then finally, pencil 4, does our school have does our school have structures that provide ongoing support to our teachers and school leaders for implementing the curriculum? I thought this illustration, while it comes from the McReal organization, captures what we are trying to do in our district with our curriculum. Moving forward, we have this year tried to hone in so that our leaders know, our teachers know, and our parents and communities know what it is that we're about in our curriculum. You will see illustrated here on the screen areas of English language arts, mathematics, science, and social studies. And so if you are wondering what are the overarching areas by which our curriculum is designed, you may use this illustration. So for example, in English language arts, it is our goal to build foundational reading skills. It is our goal to have regular practice with complex text in their academic language, followed by reading, writing, and speaking, grounded in evidence from text, both literary and informational, and then finally building knowledge through content-rich nonfiction. While I will not go over each of those in mathematics or science, you will have access to this presentation. And then also you can always go back to georgiastandards.org because that is where this information is drawn from. Finally, I will highlight social studies. That is often an area of question. And so our social studies curriculum is based on the following: developing questions and planning, applying disciplinary tools and concepts. You'll see that the big overarching content areas within social studies are civics, economics, geography, and history. Next, you have evaluating sources and using evidence, and then finally communicating conclusions and taking information. Our schools have received this information, and so leaders will use this as they develop their big rocks or their instructional focus areas for the year that will be supported by the district professional learning plan and our district curriculum content coordinators. Here, one highlight from our division is that you know that we are in the process of allocating funds for the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, the CARES Act. This is the third round of grant funding. It is in the amount of $32 million. We plan at the next board meeting to bring you a recommendation in terms of how we will use those funds to prevent COVID, prepare to, and to respond to the pandemic. We had to select 3 areas of priorities that we focus on. Those are safe, return to school, and you'll have access to our return to school plan, although I will not go into that today. This is a plan that we highlighted at the last board meeting. Our second priority area is learning loss that will address, if you'll go back the previous slide, if you'll stay here for me. Priority area 2, learning loss, this ties back to that curriculum. We will be using the funding streams to address priority standards and gaps in essential skills. Hopefully you see the connection and the flow in our return to school plan that is required for the CARES Act application. Under learning loss, area B, we will monitor and accelerate academic proficiency. And then finally, deliver high quality professional development that you have already heard me mention. New this year on the next slide is our virtual academy. And so last spring, there was an opportunity for parents who wanted an option for their students who did not want to return to school face-to-face. And so there was an application process that was opened last spring. We had about 223 families indicate their desire to attend the virtual academy. I would like to point out Ms. Relaford, if you'll wave, and Ms. Crawford. Ms. Relaford is our virtual learning specialist, and Ms. Crawford, she is the director of special programs. They have done a wonderful job in terms of getting 165 of those 223 students enrolled, and you'll see the numbers there on the screen. Students who are in elementary school, they will be served through Stride. It was previously called Fuel. And our secondary students, middle and high school, will be served by way of Edgenuity. We've had numerous informational sessions, and Chromebooks were distributed on July 29th, and we look forward to launching our virtual academy tomorrow, along with our first day of school for face-to-face. We do know that we are still in a pandemic, and so one of the things that we want to continue is something that we started last year, which is the continuous learning plan. It is to ensure that students and staff are prepared for school shutdowns or extended student absences during the pandemic, and so the following things are necessary. One is that all students and parents are aware of the technology agreement. We will be putting a Chromebook in the hands of all of our students. As said, item 2 you see is circled and highlighted. And so one of the things that we want parents to really understand is that when we send those Chromebooks home to students, when they don't come back with them, that puts us at a disadvantage in the classroom. So we are really asking for parent support, because number 2 states that students are actively taking devices home each day. We will continue to work on that area. It is a concern of principals when they put a device in a student's hand and it goes home and it doesn't come back. That does put us at a disadvantage back in the classroom. However, I do want to state that that is a goal, and it is very essential for continuous learning in the event of a shutdown or an extended absence. As such, teachers will use the Google Drive and Google Classroom and have activities available in the event that students have to access those activities from home. On the next slide, you will see this is another important update from our division. We have a new professional learning platform. There are several words here on the screen, but the main thing that I want to point out is that we have moved from the PD Express platform to a platform that is called KickUp. And what we're hoping that Kick-Up will provide for us are various reports so that we can really track the effectiveness of our professional learning and tie that back to student achievement and teacher effectiveness. I will close with a highlight on EIP. EIP stands for the Early Intervention Program. On July 1st of 2021, there was a Senate Bill 59, that passed. Senate Bill 59 stated that we could no longer use the reduced class size model to serve our early intervention students in elementary. This is significant. I want to bring this to your attention because that was the model. The model that we were using is the model that can no longer be used. So what that means for us is that we had to go to the 5 approved models that you see there on the screen, and we had to evaluate how we were serving our students and how we could best serve them in the future. And so Ms. Crawford, along with Ms. Jewell, EXO for the elementary, has met with each elementary principal, and I thank them for the work, the elementary principals for the work that they did really in a short amount of time. By the time this bill came down from GSSA and from the Georgia Department of Education, we were well beyond our plan for this school year. In fact, some of the information that we received is that about 70% of the schools in Georgia were using the reduced class size model that we were using. Good thing is we were not alone, but that still didn't make us feel good that we had to change those plans that principals already had in place. We do have a plan moving forward. You might hear us come back to you, board, to let you know that the new funding, that the new model that we use could result in a loss of funding. But it is not a if we move from reduced class size, it's when. We have to do it. And so if you see on the bottom of the slide that was provided from the DOE, instructional models that are no longer in compliance, such as the reduced class size model, with Senate Bill 59 can be funded using CARES funds. And so we will have to tap into our CARES funds and probably rearrange some of the other things that we had prioritized to ensure that we have the shortfall covered within CARES. That concludes the August teacher and leader effectiveness updates. Are there any questions at this time?
Board members, any questions? All right, thank you, Dr. Taylor.
Thank you.
We have a addendum. The superintendent would like for us to get a update from our transportation department. Could I get a motion to amend the agenda to include Mr. Todd Harris giving a transportation update?
So moved.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor? All right, thank you. Come forward, Mr. Harris.
Good evening.
Good evening.
President Holmes, Superintendent Simmons, rest of the board members. I appreciate the opportunity tonight to come before you and give you an update on our transportation department as we begin school. First, I'd like to just take a second to thank my staff, our drivers, our monitors, and our administrative staff in transportation. Since the pandemic started, they have been some miracle workers, custodians, spraying schools, delivering meals, working as nutrition workers. Every aspect that they could share the duties in, they did. I want to take this moment to thank them before I start. Thank you.
Yeah, really.
Just to give you a brief operational status, right now we have 5,332 general ed students registered to get on the buses tomorrow. That's about 13% below what we know, 5,332. It's a little bit lower than what we normally transport throughout the year. But keep this in mind, we are still enrolling and registering students, and throughout the first couple of weeks, we can expect that number to climb up close to what we normally transport, which in the 6,500 range. We have registered 173 SPED students. That's pretty static from what we have prior to the pandemic months. We have 71 planned general ed routes, 20 planned special education routes. Our midday shuttles are prepared. That covers GRCCA shuttles, shuttles for mainstay, special ed early release, some students that travel between schools. All of those are planned and prepared. We have a transit route in place for AZ Kelsey, and it is planned and in place. We have to route right now, as of 4:48 today, we have 56 pending requests. By that I mean students who have requested a bus. That would probably be in the last 48 hours, okay? We have today routed hundreds of students with last minute requests. Those are students who were served at communal bus stops, roads that we were passing through anyway. The 56 that were waiting came in late today, yesterday, and they require route changes. By that I mean we would have to alter paths and alter existing bus times for our riders. We usually lock those routes about an hour before open house starts so that that information stays static for those parents and stakeholders who walked away with a time and a bus stop. We will get those 56 and the ones that come on in the next 3 days on those routes as soon as possible with as least disruption to our current route schedules and our stakeholders and parents and their bus times as well, okay? Our fleet is prepared. All preventive maintenance was completed this summer. That includes brake jobs, the stuff that we do every year, tire replacements, fuel and oil, lubrications, and I got to give a shout out to my shop. We're 2 bus technicians down. That is a hard job to fill across the state. We've talked about it to state recent groups. It is a tough one. My guys did a great job this summer. Our technology is in place. All of our information is accurate. By that I mean the latest bus stops, bus times. It's up in real time. The technology is up and running. Our parents and schools can access that information in just a matter of minutes. It still remains a challenge to get them to use that technology sometimes. They love to pick up the telephone and call transportation. And that's kind of a segue. Well, I'll mention this. Yesterday, we met with our drivers to a return to work meeting. We went over the mitigation that the district has put in place for the pandemic and the coronavirus. We went over the superintendent's 3 pillars. We went over about being professional, accountable, and communicative effectively and how that applies to their job. Today, they picked up their routes sheets, scheduled routes, and they performed dry runs so that they'll be ready tomorrow morning to hit the stops on time. Now, what can we expect tomorrow? There's normal challenges for the first day of school. We'll get AM calls at 4 o'clock, wanting to know what bus I ride. That's okay. We're prepared for it, okay? Some students will miss buses, and we will go back to get as many as we can without making anybody else late. We will take some students home, and parents won't be at the bus stops. Our principals will know how that works. We'll have a few more returned. We'll have a few students that got on the wrong bus. But I can tell you the participation of our school administrators and the way they take tag students, it will be a minimum. It will be a minimum. Our operations have become a model around the state, and I have all the confidence that we'll be good tomorrow, except for the few small expectations that we always have, and we'll be prepared for those, okay? But yeah, dry runs are performed. Our basic goals tomorrow, as we prepared this summer, were to ensure we're compliant. All my drivers have passed their physicals, state safety meeting, all the requirements from the DOE. Our fleet's ready. Our drivers are updated and prepared to run their assigned routes tomorrow morning. All our published information is out there. If you want to know how to find it on your own, please go to the district website. All of our school administrators have those instructions. We want to ensure that it's accurate and up to date and static for the next week. And ultimately, our goal tomorrow is to make sure our students are transported safe and in a timely manner. But, Mr. Superintendent, we're ready for the first day of school.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Harris. That sounds
Mr.
plain.
Chair, if I could, please, I wanted to publicly thank you, Mr. Harris, Mr. Akins, and Ms. Dottie English. I was informed of a situation in my district yesterday. Mr. Akins called me late this afternoon. Mr. Harris called me today. I've been in contact with Ms. English overnight and again this morning. Thank you for fixing that problem, because I just want those little babies to be picked up safely and taken home safely. So we worked it all out. But I wanted to
it.
publicly thank you and Mr. Akins and Miss English. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. McDonald. Thank you.
You know, Ms. Harris mentioned something that I talked with Ms. Garvin about, and you know, as young as I am, I want to go ahead and say it now before I forget. But Ms. Garvin talked about bus drivers being cross-trained to help at the school when they're not, you know, on their route. Ms. Dobbins, do we have anything that we could do to facilitate employees that would like to do something like that? You know, be cross-trained to help out at the school level. You know, I know we would probably have to tweak their work time on the bus, at the school a little bit. Is there anything that we could possibly do to facilitate that? Maybe these positions, some, you know, that they could feel that could be accomplished?
Yes, sir. I'll have to get more information about what you have in mind, but certainly we want to utilize all of the employees that we have that are willing to work in additional ways.
Well, I'm gonna, you know, hand it off. If you talk with Ms. Garvin, she could tell you more about how that
I'll
could
be glad to
possibly
do
work.
that.
Yeah, thank you for doing that. And, I think she mentioned it, and I thought it was a good idea. Thank you, Mr. Harris.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Mr. Harris, I have a question. For
Yes, sir.
those who are viewing now and they want to wonder how can they access the transportation technology,
Sure.
where do they go?
They would go to the district website under departments and choose transportation. There's links there for E-Link. You look up your school bus. There are links there for school attendance zone. You can look up what attendance zone applies to your address, and there are, what's our other link? Oh, there's FAQs there, and there's also some staff resources for field trips, all those kind of things. But our external stakeholders, district website, departments, transportation, and it's all pretty self-explanatory there.
And you and I had a conversation after the education celebration. Can you give the board and maybe those viewing who may be in District 1 who may attend AZ Kelsey?
Yes.
Can you give an update about that?
AZ Kelsey, there's a changing population. Obviously, students move in and out. In past years, myself and the administration discussed ways to transport those students with some predictability with the changing student and attendance and who rides the bus on a daily basis. We have what I refer to as a transit route. There's 19 stops around the county that we ride every day. You could compare it to like a city bus, right? And the students can choose which one they would like to use. Some use family members' addresses for transportation purposes, those kind of things. But it is a way to keep that bus on a schedule that's predictable as students move in and out, because it does cover 250 square miles. If we tried to individually pick up students every day, every time one added or comes away, you're calling Mr. Simmons to say it's 20 minutes later today, and then you call him on Thursday, it's 30 minutes later today. So it changes, it's a fluid type scenario. So we have like a transit route. We do look at individual requests, and if there's not something close enough to them, we try to add. We may have one we're not using, we may shift that. But that is how it is designed for the AZ Kelsey students. And we serve at any given time maybe between 5 and 10 students a day with that.
It's pretty amazing.
Thank you. I heard Mr. Simmons give a sigh of relief when you said, you know, keep from calling him. So
That's right.
Thank you again, Mr. Harris.
Absolutely. Any questions y'all have, give us a call. Thank you.
All right. Next up, we have our superintendent 100-day plan update. Mr. Keith Simmons.
Good morning, Chairman Holmes, members of the board. Thank you so very much for the opportunity to speak with you. It appears that the trend is I'm always the last one, so I will do my absolute best to keep this meeting moving forward. My intent is to share with you, not that, something else. So let's keep going and see what you land on. Maybe that's again. Okay, I'm going to ask that you just go to the second slide because it's always the same. and I'll take it from there. Okay, so you all know that the district's mission is to empower our students to graduate college and career ready. You obviously know that while we are still in the midst of a new long-term strategic plan, it is still the vision that we become a agent of change, transforming our students into future-ready learners and contributing members of society. This brief conversation that I'm going to have with you represents all of the facets, the goal areas, and the goal objectives of the existing strategy map that's placed on the screen before you. Next slide, please. There. Lonnie's working his magic. I'll just remind the board and those that are watching both in person and virtually, the superintendent's entry plan consisted of 4 phases. I'm not going to read all of those to you. I will share with you that probably my favorite phase of the 4 happened to be phase 1, the introduction activities. That's where we had the opportunity to get out and about, meet community members, meet schools, meet students and parents in many ways before I actually began on the job. It culminated with phase 4, using the information that we currently know to inform the ongoing long-term strategic plan. Next slide, please. So these are the entry plan goal areas. I won't read all of those to you. This plan is still located on the district's website. What I will do is speak through some of the accomplishments that we've been able to make over the last 100 school days or 100 business days. I'll share with you, while it's called the superintendent's entry plan, I've got a team, and they're pretty good. And at this time, I would like to recognize those that are in the building, principals, directors, executive directors. If you would raise your hand, show your hand so that this group can understand who my team is. But there they are. And it's with this group that we've been able to get a lot done. Okay, so moving forward, goal area 1, governance. We've been able to get a lot accomplished. We were obviously able to codify the entry plan. We were able to have our Board of Education retreat. We've been able to establish a performance evaluation for the superintendent that we'll continue to have conversations about that. We've been able to establish a policy review calendar that will encompass all 145 district policies that we will be able to review in a 4-year cycle. What that does is it enables us to ensure that the work that we're doing is guided by the policies that you develop, and we have the opportunity to intermittently ensure that those policies are updated. One of the things that we still have to do is develop our theory of change. The theory of change in many ways becomes the umbrella in which that will develop the long-term strategic plan. I'll talk a little bit more about that later on, but I'll actually name it a theory of action. Goal area 2. Again, this is probably my favorite goal area. This is where we have the opportunity to take a look at what's happening from school to school, classroom to classroom, most importantly from learner to learner. Had the opportunity to do virtual learning, in-person learning, had the opportunity to talk to students about what went well, what did not go so well, talk with teachers about the struggles that they were working through, conducting simultaneous teaching, the aspirations that they had to get things back to a degree of normalcy. Conversations with principals, directors about the needs that we have in order to serve our community the way that we desire, but also the resources that we have and that we're leveraging to get the outcomes that we desire. Again, a review and analysis of the district performance standards, those types of things that I typically would have done in partnership with the Department of Education. Because of COVID, we've not had the opportunity to have an external review come in, take a look at what we do, how we do it, why we do it, and help us make decisions about what happens in the future. That's ongoing work, and I'm looking forward to continuing that in the near future. Goal area 3, culture, climate, and community. There you have a photo from our recent education celebration, and truth be told, by all accounts, we're improving our culture. I'll share with you that the culture is not yet to the point where we desire, but we recognize where opportunities are to improve. We also recognize where opportunities are to improve our people, and that's what's most important. What you'll see is that we've had the opportunity to go into the community, opportunities to partner with the new county manager, the new city manager, ministerial alliance, you name it, we've been there. Whether it be social clubs, civic clubs, we've had the opportunity to listen, we've had the opportunity to ask questions, we've had the opportunity to engage and collaborate, and those activities will bode well for us as we're finding out ways that we can strengthen our partnerships both internally and externally. Goal area 5, organizational capacity. I'll direct your attention to that photo. It looks like a team athletic photo, but truth be told, that's the photo that we took at our recent administrative retreat. That group is the group that's carrying the burden. That group is the group that helps to set the pace. And I know, board members, that you're familiar with our acronym. I'll talk a little bit more about that. But all in all, that group has been the one in which I've gotten the most information. Those are the boots, per se, on the ground, making sure that the things that we desire for students are coming to fruition. Outstanding opportunities, going back and engaging our strategic waivers. The conversation that Dr. Tiffany Taylor had with you relative to our EIP program, an output of our strategic waivers is the current EIP program. So going back and looking at the waivers that we have approved, determining if we need to request additional waivers or additional flexibility based on what we now know about our school system, the capacity that we have within our school system, and the direction that you want to go in this next long-term strategic plan. Goal area 4, that's okay, it was purposefully out of order. And I'll be honest with you. While we've had a lot of conversation about equity, for you to know, board members, equity is more than what you're hearing. I'm a product of it. So is everyone in this room. For me, I've been an equity leader for the last 11 years. I have not, I will not, I do not apologize for leading for equity. If you were to ask principals, how did we make decisions about the needs that they have? It was based on the resources that we were able to provide, the performance that they were already giving, and the goals that they've set for the schools. We've tried to leverage equity based on our students' performance, based on our schools' performance, and based on the aspirations of this community. And so I left that little visual there because, truth and told, that's what it's about. It's about meeting the people where they are. It's about meeting schools where they are, giving them the resources to be successful. That's what it's all about for me. We've not necessarily had an opportunity to dig deep and get granular in the work, but I do not apologize for what you see. The entry plan was developed, codified, and approved by you in March. It's not changed. I don't intend to change it. I do believe, all things aside, it's going to require that we recognize, in order for us to move students, staff, facilities, communities forward, you go to where they are, you figure out what those needs are, and you provide them. We have students in this organization that are performing at higher levels than others. They still need support. We have schools that are performing at different rates. They still need support. I have schools with needs that are specific to that location. My responsibility as an equity leader is to take care of that school and its specific needs in its specific location. We are not trying to create a one-size-fits-all. I think it's important that you know that. I think it's important that people hear me say that, because at the end of the day, in order for me, as the superintendent of this school, to ensure that every child graduates college and career ready, I have to recognize that they have a diverse set of needs. I don't really care what their race is. I just want to make sure that I'm able to provide those needs, or provide the resources to meet those needs. I don't care what school they attend. All of them I belong to. I'm responsible for all 18 schools, 3 programs. I don't care what the address is, what boils down, we're going to hire great people. We're going to develop them. We're going to give them the skill sets necessary to educate our kids. Let me be clear. If you go back and do the history of schools, the purpose of schools, simply put, is to make kids smarter. End of discussion. That's the function of schools. Those that go into them are smarter when they come out. Not every kid goes in at the same pace, the same level. So we can't go in there and give them all the same thing. That's why you see the difference between equity and equality. Next slide. So these are the things that I've found: coherence and cohesion. We have the capacity and the competence to improve our coherence and cohesion. I'll share with you the organizational structure is a big deal. It's an opportunity for us to leverage the talent that's in the room. We have a group of principals that are leading schools through a pandemic, and we'll see it through. We have families that are witnessing trauma, a diversity of adversity. Our responsibility as a school system is to help. Before we can make them smarter, we have to make them better. We have to make them whole. We have to make them safe. That's what this is about. Next slide. Next slide. So as you know, you've heard me talk about our 3 pillars. A distinctive brand. You know how I feel about the logo, moving and developing the brand. Strong leaders and great schools. As I said recently, every child, every parent in this community wants their child to attend a great school. As it was stated earlier, some of our families don't have a choice as to where they reside. We have a choice as to whether or not we're going to ensure that the school in that community is performing at high levels or not. That's our choice, that's our decision. We're committed to doing so. Next slide. So the non-negotiables that you've heard about: be professional, be accountable, and communicate effectively. That's why, in some ways, I appreciate people expressing their concerns, their misunderstandings about what they've heard, what they've seen or not taking place in our classrooms. Tomorrow's the first day of school. Our job is to educate everybody who shows up, in person or on a computer. Our job is to ensure that at the end of the school year, they're smarter than they were when we met them. These 3 behaviors will ensure that we're able to do that. As I've shared with the staff for the last 2.5 months, despite the title, the role, the position, the school, the location, the salary, all of us have the capacity and the competence to be professional, be accountable, and communicate effectively. And if we do those things, we're going to be a district that others want to be like. Next slide. You've heard me talk about the results pyramid. In many ways, as you've heard me say, experiences create beliefs. My experience as a former special ed student, having 3 older brothers who've dropped out of school, forces me to ensure that we commit to eliminating high school dropouts. I know what it does. Those beliefs lead to actions. Those actions will give us the results. We will be intentional about confronting the things that are getting in the way, eradicating those things, so that children, families are better because they're in Griffin-Spalding. Next slide. So these are the desired practices of this central office. I shared this slide, if you would, last week with the entire central office staff. I believe that we will model the way. It starts with us. From there, we will inspire the vision. Everyone knows that we have 3 pillars of success. We will inspire that from the child all the way back up to the superintendent's office. Every child, we're going to help them develop leadership skills. Every child, we're going to help them understand the value add that they bring to their school. And every child, we're going to help them understand that they are responsible, in collaboration with the adults in this school system, to develop the brand that other people will want to be like. Enabling others to act. That's the heavy lifting. Making sure that we are empowering our people, whether it be adults or students. Lastly, encouraging the heart. Do what's right. Do just. Be humble. Those are the behaviors that I'm charging the central office staff with. I'm asking the central office staff to cascade those behaviors out into our schools. I'm asking our schools to cascade those behaviors to our children. I'm asking those children to share with their families what we're teaching. These are the things that will help transform our community. These are the things that will help transform people in general. Next slide. So, you heard me talk about a theory of action. Simply put, a theory of action is an if-then statement. I know that I have both of our new executive officers in the audience. Thank you, board, for approving that position to better support principals. So I'll leverage their work as the example. Next, not next slide, but click that. So the example is if, for those of you who aren't familiar with what a theory of action is, this is what a theory of action is relative to Ms. Cynthia Jewell and Ms. Lindy Pruitt as it relates to the work that we are going to do for the principals so that they can do the work for the staff, so that they can do the work for the students. Board, you know I shared with you in February, I believe in a through line. It starts with me and it ends with children in the desk. So if we put conditions in place for principals to be effective instructional leaders and building managers, then principals in turn can put conditions in place for teachers to be effective in meeting the needs of each learner, so that all students are known by name, strength, and need to graduate college and career ready. That's the theory of action. We're going to develop one of those for the entire school system, because I don't believe that we're going to happenstance our way into improving our organization or transforming this community. I think it's going to take some intentionality. I think it's going to take a theory of action, one that I can share with the staff, we can collaborate and develop consensus on. But if the charge is for us to get better and do better, we'll do so with a theory of action. Next slide. So what's most important right now? We're going to continue to engage our people. Engage our people together. We're going to continue to understand their needs. That's empathy. We're going to find out what we're doing well. We're going to find out what we need to change. We'll measure our level of service and success, get the right people involved, understand our weaknesses, and confront them all over again. You've probably heard of the continuous improvement cycle. This is a long-winded version of it. Ultimately, we will plan, we will do, we will check, we will act. Next slide. So this is us. This is who we are, and we are who we are. At the end of the day, while we're not at our best, I assure you we will do our best to get there. That's the 100-day summative report from the superintendent. I will provide the board with a narrative written report, but I wanted you to know that my 100 days as a superintendent have come and gone. It's been a blast. I've learned a lot. I've seen a lot. And we still have a lot to be thankful for. Thank you, board.
Mr. Simmons, I want to ask you. I want to ask you, doing your 100-day look, listen, and learn, and everything that was involved with that, what has been, I don't want to say your greatest, but what are your most memorable moments or incident?
So one that pops into mind, I'll give you three really quickly. I had an opportunity to meet a 5th grade student at Atkinson Elementary who asked me, "What do you do?" I in turn shared that question with every staff member in the organization. I think her asking me, "What do you do?" and me asking the staff, "What do you do?" helped us to consider what we do and how we can do it better. That's one. I'll never forget her. She doesn't know it, but I'll be at her school on Tuesday, following her all day long so that I can make sure that she understands what I do. My goal is to, when she graduates, say that I helped. Another one was talking with a group of 5th graders at Moreland Road who were on the computer sharing concerns about whether they were going to be ready for Carver Road, because they weren't quite sure if they'd had the experiences to mature to be ready to be 6th graders in person. That classroom happened to be a classroom full of highly performing students. I offer that to you because when you hear me talk about equity and when you hear me talking about meeting the needs of students, I'm not just talking about kids who learn at lower levels. I'm talking about kids, period. And what I learned that day is we have to ensure that we take care of our young people. We have to ensure their social and emotional well-being. We have to ensure that they recognize that we have their best interest at our hearts. I had a conversation with both the Harvard principal and the Moreland Road principal. I had a conversation with one of the parents who happened to be listening. We've got work to do. We lost some of the investment to no fault of our own, and we lost some of the confidence to no fault of our own because of the pandemic. Innately, children look to adults for leadership. Having that conversation with those young people at Moreland Road on the day that we went out and read reminds me that wherever I am, whenever I'm there, young people are watching. That's how I got to telling the staff, regardless as to who you are, be professional, because young people are watching, and they will do as we do, whether we want them to or not. The other piece was probably, sir, I've had the opportunity to meet 7 former students who are now employees in our school system. They were students of mine. They're employees. That's been cool. That's been refreshing. But it's also been,
age
inspiring.
check.
What I've told them is that they're getting older, not me. Even though they like to talk about when I was their principal, I didn't have a beard, let alone it being white. But the Look, Listen, and Learn tour enabled me and the staff to have honest conversations about how we saw ourselves and the way people told us that they saw us. Perception matters. It's other people's reality. I don't take that lightly. I've leveraged all of that into the previous 15 slides. Great question.
Okay. Board members, anyone else? Thank you, Mr. Simmons.
Yes, sir.
Before we move into the executive session, I want to offer, while we have a captive audience, the board members an opportunity to make any comments that they will have at this time, starting over here to my right, Mr. Brown.
Mr. Chair, for the opportunity to address and board member comments. We're looking forward to day one in Griffin-Spalding County Schools. We'll be out in the community tomorrow, ready to greet our scholars, teachers, and school administration. We wish you well for the 2021-2022 academic school year. I want to give a special shout out to our teachers and our custodians for working diligently to ensure that our scholars are returning to a safe and welcoming environment. I'm excited about the school year and all that our scholars will be doing this year. And lastly, I want to shout out all the people that made our open house last Thursday an absolute success. I believe our schools did an excellent job getting our scholars and our parents ready for the upcoming school year. And just thank you to everybody for pitching in, because we are one team. We are educating our scholars. We are making sure they are college and career ready. We are all in this together, and we're ready to keep setting the pace, sir.
Go ahead, Ms. Cook.
First day of school tomorrow. Done this. But you've risen the occasion. Is this better? All right. Thank you for what you've done this past year. I shared a quote back during the year that keeps coming back to me. During the pandemic, as I was going through several drive-thrus to get lunch, one day I went through Chick-fil-A. During that time, they were writing quotes on the bags. And one quote that stuck with me is the following: "You never know how strong you are until strong is the only option." And you've all been strong this year. You've all risen to the occasion, and we're proud of each one of you, and we look forward to coming back together for a great year. So to all of our administrators, our faculty, our staff, our students, have a wonderful year, and please let us know if there's anything that we can do to help you. Our job is to help you get what you need to have a successful year. So thanks to all of you from the Board of Ed.
When I hear Mr. Simmons speak, and I wanted everyone in the room to know, and watching live or listening, that he spoke to me as a former educator during the interview process and had me in tears more than once. Every time he speaks, he has me in tears because he gets it. He's relevant and he is impressive. So, Mr. Simmons, thank you. When I attended the celebration last Wednesday, I could just feel the difference in the room. The people are just truly, truly excited, not only about Mr. Simmons, but the entire organization, This board is excited for you, for this organization. And you know what? We're gonna make some grand moves. We're already in the process of making some grand moves. I feel it. I know it as a former educator myself. So again, Mr. Simmons, I wish I could just listen to a podcast every morning when I wake up of you, because you just inspire me. It's just, you were just very inspiring. And wow, did we hire the right man or what? Wow. I told Mr. Holmes we kind of had a little prayer meeting at the celebration. We went up on the front of our seats and we kind of whispered to one another, and we go, if we don't ever make another important decision, the decision we made to hire Mr. Simmons, man, have we hit a home run. And I believe that. Let us know how we can help. I used to tell my own kids, I can't fix it if I don't know about it. This man wants it fixed. We can fix it, but we got to be made aware of it. Thank you to all of you in this room. Thank you to all listening. Thank you to everyone that was there last Wednesday. It was, I've made so many relationships with people I've never even met, but I'm so honored that I have those relationships. So thank you. Good luck tomorrow. I can't wait to hear the reports about the first day of school, and as a former educator, I know that was one of my best days ever. So thank you. Love you all. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to share. I'm just reminded of about 5 years ago, two of the board members weren't with us at that time, but we were sitting in that little section over there behind the thing, whatever that is called, or that little appendix. And we had some very open, honest conversation about the importance of the not having trust in one another. And we made a decision at that point in time that we were going to begin moving forward with building that trust. I'm not going to say the last 4 years have been easy by any means, but I can tell you from this time last year till now, there's been some major changes that has taken place. And you have a governance team that is sitting here that trusts one another. And as that continues to develop and to grow, that is going to trickle down, as you can already see the things that are taking place in central office, things that will be taking place at the administrative levels, that goes all the way down to our students. In order for this system to continue to grow and to prosper, it's a part of buying into that trust. Things are not always going to be exactly the way we want them. I may vote one way and somebody may vote another way. You may not get exactly what you want in a particular situation. But I can tell you overall, there has been some major changes that have taken place at the top level that have got to trickle down and will continue to trickle down for continued improvement. So I appreciate your 100-day speech of what has been happened and taken place, but I'm more appreciative of a board that has been willing to be open and honest and to change, because that's what we've done. We've changed. And so as that continues to grow, I expect great things for Griffin-Spalding.
I want to thank for your hard work, most of all for staying in the fight. That's something that everyone is not able to do. And we've been in a tough fight. Sometimes you've had to pull yourselves up by your bootstraps, but you stayed in the fight. And I'll tell you, like I mentioned in an email that I sent out, don't take on something that's not yours. And what I mean by that is you have a board who's willing to take on stuff that doesn't have anything to do with you educating our babies at the school level, taking care of your staff at the school level. We'll deal with it, along with the others in the governance team. We don't want you to be distracted from taking care of our babies and taking care of yourselves. So don't take on anything that you don't need to have on your plate. This group right here, we have no problem doing it. Because as I said, once you know that you're standing on the right side of truth, you don't mind dealing with it. And I say to Mr. Garvin, it was such a pleasure to be with you and your staff this morning. And I tell you all the same thing that I told them. That was an opportunity for me to be transparent with her staff, to let them know that relationships are important. Getting to know people, talking with people. I look around the room and I have probably a deeper, a better relationship with some than others because they've accepted me as Zachary Holmes and not just a board member. They've invited me to their schools and we talked and we prayed and things of that nature. And I just want you to know that you can do that with any of these board members. We're not hung up on titles and all this and that. All of us are in this because we love children and we want what's best for our children. So I'm praying for you every day. I know what you're dealing with. It's a tough fight. But don't take on anything that is not yours because you have a tough enough job as it is, taking care of these babies and your staff. And I appreciate you all being here. It says a lot. Looking around the room at the principals and the leaders, you didn't have to be here. I know you were given an option. But it's noticed and it's appreciated because it shows that that you care about the behind the scene things that go on in the decisions that are being made that affect you and you doing your job. So I thank you. I wish you a 5-star first day of school. And anytime you need either one of us, we're only a phone call away. But be assured, as I'm not as bad as Miss McDonald. I'm not gonna get all gaga over Mr. Simmons. But one thing, and we back him up 150%. The principals at every school, you've been given the autonomy to lead. We don't have a cookie cutter system. Everything is not for everybody. And we back that decision 150%. So it's all about performance. And you've been given the autonomy to perform. So take care of your school, take care of these babies, take care of your staff, and watch how things will turn out for you. So thank you once again for being here. And at this time, we have one item for executive session to discuss or deliberate upon the periodic evaluation or rating of the superintendent. We entertain a motion to go into executive session at this time.
So moved.
Got a motion by Mr. Doss.
Second.
Second by Ms. Cook. All in favor? 5-0. Thank you all, and have a wonderful evening and a wonderful first day.